Hello, everyone, and welcome to this training 3. The QR code that you can use for attendance is shown here. Please use your email address that's associated with your account. If you do submit your attendance and you are a pilot teacher, this will extend your free access all the way through July. For all teachers, of course, this will be submitted to your administrator as well. And if this is your third and final training, you are now GMM certified, so congratulations. Let's talk now about what's going to take place in this training. So here's what you can expect to learn. This is all about student data. How can we use that data to drive our decisions about our students? How can we intervene when needed using that data? How can we modify the spiral review? And then what are some other ways that we can differentiate? The QR code is showing on the screen here as well. I'll put it up at the end. I'll also show you how you can reach out to us if you're in the moment, if you're with class. I just want to show you how you can do that, and you can also look at some other resources. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. So as we get started in this third training, just a reminder that current status is where you can see your students in real time. It's that formative assessment. You'll notice in this class, students are active when they have the green dot next to the blue name. You can order any column just by clicking on it. So I could order which students have raised their hand first, second, in this case, can see what they're working on. I can order the points today. That way I can check in with my students who have earned the least number of points. I can also order the time since correct. And when I do that, it's going to put the students with the most time since the last correct answer first. And when it's been 6 minutes or more, then it will turn red. Okay, so those are options you can see in the current status. If I jump over to my class here, you'll notice that I have a student that's showing here. I can see their points today. I can see the time since correct, right? But students can also see the time since correct on their screen. So I'm going to go over to my student screen here. A reminder too that this is where students raise their hand. If they want to raise their digital hand, that's going to show up on my screen right here. So that shows up for me here. And then, of course, students can see how long it's been since the last correct answer by going to settings and clicking on show clock. So when they show that clock, they can move that pop-up that appears, but it will show as a blue screen here, just a blue little pop-up, and it'll say that it's been 4+ minutes, which again matches my number here. So students will be able to see that on their screen here too. Now, other things you can do here, you can message your class. So if you're noticing that a number of students are really struggling with a certain type of problem, you can message them with a hint or some encouragement, whatever that might mean. So you can message your entire class that way. You can also, of course, click on any student's name, and you can see by using the full screen icon what that problem is. Maybe you want to project that. Maybe a lot of students are having issues with this type of problem. So you can project those problems from students' individual screens as well. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about here is assignments. So current status, keep that available when students are active. Want to make sure you know exactly how they're doing. What about assignments? This is a great place to take a grade. So in assignments, you can see that I've got several assignments here for this class. Many of them are still available, but you can always either turn them on or turn them off as needed for your students here. You can also, of course, click on any of the assignment names and then take a little bit deeper dive to see how your students did. So you'll notice that there's a check mark when students have completed the goal. In this case, the goal is 14 points, 6 from targeted skills and 8 from spiral review. A reminder, always have spiral review points embedded into your assignments. It's good practice to keep them working on those skills throughout the year. But you'll also notice right here, I've got a couple of students here, 4 or 5 students that haven't completed it. But take a look at this student here. They've earned 11 of the 14 points that I wanted them to earn, but look, they've fixed errors, and you can order any of these columns here. But you'll notice that that student, if I go back to it, that student here has fixed 3 errors. Maybe I want to factor that into my final grade. So you can see as a student the same thing. If you want to see how many errors you fixed, you can, as a student, go back to your account, and you can go to your calendar. So here's a calendar. I can see the days, how many points were the goal for the day, and how many points I earned, and then how many errors I fixed. For each of the days, you can even see the weekly totals here as well. Okay, so that calendar view is a nice way for students to be able to see how they're doing here. They can also go to their work history from the same, if I go to um, my menu and I go to work history, now I can see how I'm doing. If I've completed the assignment, it's there for me there as well. It's also here in work history in the available work. It'll be showing here too. So work history is a nice place for students to be able to check in to see how they're doing. Now, let's go back to our classes tab. So we've talked about current status, talked about assignments. Let's look at spiral review next. Spiral review, of course, is where you can find how your students are doing as a whole. This is the class data. We always recommend more green than purple as far as the number of points they've accumulated. You can hover over each of these sections here. That gives you peace of mind knowing that your students are working on all of those skills throughout the year. Now, notice how I have all of these skills that are available down below, so I can check out each one of them. If I want to, I can see how my students are doing almost like an exit ticket here. So this is a newer skill that I put in, all right? And you can see if it hasn't been 3 days, then my students are in good shape. They're yellow, but there are a couple of students who are not. Okay, so just a reminder that proficiency, if you hover over that green question mark, proficiency just simply means what percent of your students are either showing green, silver, or gold as their squares, right? So again, if I click on this, this is my exit ticket, all right? But if I need to remediate with these two students, I can go right to problem. I can see what the problem looks like. I can even see the answer for that problem. But what I can do is I can make it full screen, and now I have unlimited guided practice by using the refresh arrow. And now I can do some reteaching with those students on that skill. Okay. So keep that in mind when you're in the spiral review, you can see exactly how your students have done on each of those skills. Right. But a reminder too, you can also, of course, in this option, you can click on any of the headings and order them as you need to. So you can do that here. If I go to date added, let's say that I go back to some older skills and I want to see how my students have done on some of those older ones. So I'm going to go over here to proficiency again. Remember, green, silver, or gold. 100% of my students are showing that and their names are showing here. That's great. So if this is a building block skill, maybe a fill the gaps kind of skill, maybe I don't need this to be showing up as a square on my student screens anymore. I'm going to go and I'm going to deactivate that. Okay. You can always go back. You can always deactivate it right here, but I like to go to the data and take a look at it. So everybody's proficient again on this skill. I don't need it for end of the year testing. I'm going to turn it off. Okay, now instead of going back to here for the spy review or here, you can always do a shortcut and go use this forward button. Now I can drop down to that next skill. Now this skill tells a little bit different story. Everybody's proficient except Bobby is yellow. It's an older skill. I'm going to turn this off, but I'm going to show you here in a moment how you can bring this skill back for Bobby individually if you would like to. I'm going to drop down to the next skill. This one tells a similar story. Everybody's proficient except Bobby. Bobby's showing up red here. It's an older skill. I'm going to turn it off. I don't necessarily need all of my students to see it, but how can I bring that back for Bobby? I'll show you that here in just a minute. So notice how I've turned off these 4 skills, right? These 2 skills I do want to bring back for Bobby in just a moment, right? But maybe there's some other skills that you would like to deactivate. Maybe you don't need them for some reason. Maybe there's some skills that they're oversaturated. You've done a series of skills and you don't need all of them anymore. So I'm going to show you a little shortcut here. You can collapse this row. You could collapse the options here in the gray column row as well, but I want to order by skill code. I'm going to show you. See these 2 skills here? They're very similar, right? I'm going to turn off one of them, but instead of doing it individually, instead of deactivating just the green slider, I'm going to show you, you can use the check boxes here. So maybe there's some other skills. Maybe I've got a couple of rounding skills that I really don't need here. Okay. And again, maybe you have some other skills that are just skills that, hey, I don't need those. They're not on state testing. So you can always go ahead and deactivate the skills that you'd like, okay, to make your spiral review look a little more like your end of the year state testing. Those are the skills you really want your students to be able to perform, right, for that test. So maybe I want to create an exam from this too. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to actions once I've clicked on those check boxes, and I'm just going to click on deactivate. So now I've deactivated several skills here. All right. And once again, maybe there's some other skills that you want to deactivate. Either they're oversaturated or they're just fill the gap skills or they're skills that are not going to be on the end of the year test. Go ahead and deactivate those either individually or using the actions button here with the checkboxes. Okay, so let's just say now that I'm happy with my skills that are left. They're good quality skills. How could I then use some of these skills to start preparing my students for cumulative testing or the end of the year state testing? Let me show you how you can do that now. A reminder that this is a great place to create an exam right here from Spiral Review. So let's just say there's a few skills that I would like to put on an exam. Maybe I want to prepare for state testing. You can deactivate, of course, over in actions. You can also create an exam. So I'm going to do that. Let's call this exam from Spiral Review. And you can create it, of course, so that everybody gets the same problems, everybody gets random problems. You can change the number of skills or the number of points per skill if you'd like. So you can certainly do that there as well. Let's just click save. Now, once it's saved, you can publish it, of course. Okay, and then once it's published, you can shuffle. Okay, and then again, it's there to publish for you as needed. Okay, now let's go ahead and see what that looks like from your classes tab. A reminder that in exams, it's going to show up right here. So this is that exam that I created. Earlier, though, I created an exam and my students took it. I wanted to show you this feature. Once your status is graded, that's kind of that magic that was discussed in that training too, because now that turns on the corrections and the follow-up, but it also allows you to go right here to where it says view analysis. If I click on view analysis, now I have data to look at based on the exam that if it shows graded, I can see exactly which students missed, the number of points that were missed right here. You can always order these as needed. Okay, and I can go over here and I had 5 skills in this exam. So I see a sample, I see the answer, I see exactly which students missed this skill. So the beauty of this is I have a sample problem here. I can make it full screen and now I have reteaching that I can do with those students as needed. And I can do that with all 5 of those skills here. Now I can also do this. Notice how there's a create assignment, but it's grayed out. I can't do anything with that yet. So these were the 3 that were most missed. I'm going to click the checkbox for those 3. And now I have the ability to create an assignment. Okay. Now I'm going to call this most missed on exam. You can always change the parameters here, the number of each as needed. Always keep Spiral Review points. We recommend that in any assignment that you create. Okay, I'm going to save that so that it's there. I can assign it if I want to. That's an option there as well. Okay, now that's what you can use for your view analysis. If you go back to the classes tab, again, you can see here from the classes tab, I have that exam from the Spiral Review that I gave to my class previously. I can see the corrections data, of course. I can see the follow-up data if there's any to look at there. So just a reminder that we do have corrections and follow-up. Those are 2 very unique features in our program that you can use. Okay, now let's go back to that Spiral Review. You've seen how to create an exam from the Spiral Review. You've also seen how to deactivate many skills at once using those checkboxes. One more action you have in Spiral Review from the actions option is to create an assignment directly from the skills that your students are already practicing in the Spiral Review. Okay, so maybe you've identified a couple of skills that are still showing low proficiency. Maybe there's some older skills here that I could click on these checkboxes for. But also you could, of course, go over to your manage columns. Red means that they're struggling, so maybe I want to reorder the red. And here's another skill. Maybe I want to include those 3 skills into an assignment. All right, so let's go ahead over here to the actions. Now that we've checked those boxes, we could create an assignment from here. Okay, now just remember that your students are already practicing these skills in Spiral Review, so you're not really doubling up. You're just going to create a new assignment that's more focused for the students, and those skills can be there for them in this assignment. So let's just call this practice from Spiral Review. Okay, now again, always include spiral review points. That's our recommendation. You can change the numbers as needed if you need to. And then you can, of course, assign that. You can assign it to multiple classes. You could make it immediate or you could schedule it. Okay, so you certainly can do that. So creating an assignment based on data in the spiral review is just another very practical way of intervening for your struggling students. Just a quick reminder that you also have the option to reteach any of the spiral review skills by clicking on the description or clicking any of the data to see the unlimited problems for that skill. So for example, here I see that I have some students. This is an older skill. Maybe I need to do some remediation, some reteaching from here. So I can go to problem. A good practice is to make this full screen. So now I can share this with my class, especially those students who might need some sample problems here to reteach. Okay, so that's a good practice. You can always do that with any skill before assigning. Now, if you recall, there were 4 skills earlier that I turned off for the class, but I wanted to bring these 2 skills back for that student named Bobby. So how can we do that? How can we modify the spiral review? All right, I'm going to go now to this column here where it says student data. I'm going to click on student data. And when I do that, I see a list of my students come up. So I can kind of see a class at a glance here. The spiral review view, if I click on Bobby's name, I have a look now at how he's doing. This is his points distribution. I can hover over to see how many points he's earned. I can also go to the calendar view. Okay, from the calendar view, I can see the same exact thing that Bobby can see. I showed you that from his student menu. So I can see the points earned and the errors fixed. Okay, those are possibilities for you to see for the student as well from your view here. You can also see some of the active skills and the data that goes there, and then the colors, how many squares of each color they have on their screen. Okay, you can also see assignments. So this is a great way to be able to show, parents, if you have parent-teacher conferences, you can show this screen. This is a great way to see how students are doing. You can order them by complete assignments. You can see the points total again. You can order by errors fixed. You can even download. Don't forget about the download feature here. That's available to you. And then if students have done exams, you can see those exams that are showing here as well. Okay, but let's go back to spiral view. So I'm with Bobby here now. So this is Bobby's individual page. I'm going to do another shortcut here. I'm going to collapse these rows. And when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and look at these 4 skills that I turned off for the class. Now, these 2 skills that are showing here are the ones I want to bring back for Bobby. If you recall, he had a yellow skill and a red skill that I turned off for the class, but I wanted to bring these 2 back for Bobby. So how do I do that? How can I get that square back on Bobby's screen if I've taken it away from everybody else? Well, you do it right here. Bobby's in what we call the class spiral review, but there's another option right here called the modified spiral review. So if I click on modified spiral review, watch how that changes my screen. Now I have these blue sliders that come into play here. So notice how they're off for the class, and I can tell this because there's no green dot here. Even though that green dot is faded, it just means that that's part of the active skills in the class. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on those 2 skills, those red and yellow skills for Bobby. Okay, you could do just the opposite. Perhaps there's a few skills you want to turn off. I never recommend turning off gold skills, especially for students who struggle, because that's good incentive for them. They like that encouragement. They see the smiley faces that fall when they get those. They're pretty good at those skills. So I would just turn on or off skills that you think best replicate what you want for that student. All right. So if you're using the modified spiral review, it's going to show right here. There's also going to be this little symbol next to their name, and that will be anywhere in the program where you see their name. So if I go to current status, notice how that symbol is there. If I go to roster, it's there as well. Okay, I'm going to go back to student data. Notice how it's here. If I want to bring Bobby back with the rest of the class, it's really simple. Okay, I could activate those individually if I wanted to, even though they're not turned on for the class. But I could just bring them back for the rest of the class right here. If I click on Use Class Spiral Review, notice how those sliders disappeared. Okay, so that student is now just back with the rest of the class. You can do that with any student that you'd like. So again, that's the modified spiral review that you can do right from student data. Just choose a student and modify as you need to. Now, if modifying this by review is not exactly something that you're thinking of, but you're thinking, well, how else could I differentiate for my students? Well, you'll notice in my classes here, I have a period one and a period one challenge, right? So that challenge class, if you look, that challenge class has some of the same students that my period one class has. Right, but let's say I want to create another class. Let's say I have some students who are they're struggling a little bit. So I'm just going to call this the purple class. Just keep in mind, you're always going to want to name it based on knowing that the students can see the name of the class. Okay. So let's just say I choose grade 5 for this group. Okay. And these are the starter bundle skills that you learned about when you create your class. So I've got that purple class here. Now, what if I want to add a student from my period one into that purple class? Okay, so I want to add Cam here. Cam's struggling a little bit. I want to differentiate. Maybe I'll pull in some other students into this class as well. But I'm going to go to that purple class, right? And I want to add Cam to this class. But you'll notice I would have to push out this class enrollment link, which is fine. That's easy enough to do. But maybe I just want to add Cam manually. Okay, so I could search for the student and type in Cam's name. As long as Cam has a password login for the district, he's going to be here. So I'm just going to add Cam that quickly. All right. So now Cam is in that class, and I could do the same thing with any students from any of the other classes if I wanted to pull them into that class. So that's another way you can differentiate from here. You can also go to settings. Let's just say I'm going to go to settings for this class. And again, from settings, you can change the defaults. By default, the read aloud is not turned on for the class, but maybe I want to for the whole class. Maybe I want to change the problem replacements. Problem replacements are just going to be they can see the answer and then they can get a new problem. So maybe I want to increase that. You can also turn on or off certain games. You can determine the points to earn for each game credit. So those are there for you as well. And then question types are showing here. Maybe I don't need drag and drop for that class. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to set up those settings for your whole class. Now that I've added that student to this purple class, let's take a look and see what it looks like from the student's point of view. So if I go to the student's page, here's the student. Just a quick reminder, there are other options in the menu. You could have students take a deep dive into their own statistics, whether that's the overall statistics or the current skill that's showing on the right hand of the screen. Students can see that as well. But they can also switch class. So if you want them to be in more than one class with just the one account, they can click on switch class. If you've set that up for them to be in a class, and then now they can see the class listed. All right. And one other recommendation from the menu that we have is to go to the settings and change the theme color. So I named a purple class. I'll just have that banner be purple that comes across. Now the student has an easier time understanding when they're in which class. Same with you. If you're walking around, you know which class they're working in today. Okay. Now, just to wrap things up, a couple other reminders when we're talking about differentiation. So for any students that you have, if you go to your roster, roster is where you can go and you can change the options for those students. You can change first, last name, username, password. Okay, so don't forget you can also activate or deactivate any of these sliders if you want to disable games or disable penalties or limit multiple choice to 3, or if you choose not to, you certainly can do that for any of the students. You can also individualize the read aloud for students if you'd like, okay, or you can choose it back to the class setting. You could also individualize the problem placements per day, and you can individualize the question types. So for example, if drag and drop is an issue for a student, you can remove that and they won't see that type of problem, okay? So the roster is another great place where you can individualize just those individual settings as needed. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up then for today. Resources that you have. In the upper right-hand corner are the resources that you can find. For example, we have help articles and help videos and other teacher resources, lesson plans and things. You can always take a look at those. But if you are in need of immediate help, of course, there's the green chat bubble down in the bottom right-hand corner. And that will allow you within 2 minutes to get a response during the school day. We'll be able to help you when you need it that quickly. And also, of course, support at getmoremath.com. You can always email us there too. So This is it. Thank you for attending the third training. Congratulations if you are now GMM certified. You've extended your free access all the way through the end of July. Okay, so we just ask that if you do have any questions, that you don't hesitate to reach out. This attendance QR code, again, remember, use that. Make sure you use that email address that's associated with your account so that you get credit for attending today. But that's it. Again, congratulations if this is your last one. We appreciate you being here for these. And please, again, reach out. You guys take care.